Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us because we have a very busy show in store for you today. We're going to cover a lot of issues. Obviously, there's the breaking tragic news out of Minneapolis. We'll be discussing that. We've got other issues, quite a few updates as well, breaking stories from yesterday that we'll be getting to. First off, I like this new, though I'm sure it's not going to last forever, but new tradition of waves from all over the world. I did set up the map. I didn't know the map was autographed by Chris O'Brien, and I do appreciate that. And they are sending in today a big wave as they're doing a boat tour, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, in Rudesheim as they watch Frankly Speaking. Thank you, guys. Looking good out there. I'm not sure what all that says, but I'm assuming a boat tour at Rudesheim. I hope I'm doing all right with that. So that's a big wave. Let's add it right there on the screen as we speak. Thank you. We are going international with Frankly Speaking. This has been exciting all week long. My map, it's gigantic. The tacks I got will not stick to them. They're too thick. So I've got to figure out how to find tacks that will work, because right now the tacks that I bought would take up about one full state in the United States. So we have so many states that we've received waves from. If you are new to the program and you're wondering what I'm talking about, you see that wave counter on the bottom of the screen. You can send in an emoji wave, people that walk by wave. We just count them. Just something fun that we do here, and we've been all over now. Alaska, the Philippines, Egypt, Germany, everywhere, it seems like. So I can't wait to start putting together the map. I think I have all the areas saved. Breaking news yesterday, late last night, Russian ballistic missiles did hit Kiev in a large-scale attack, killing at least 10. Zelensky is calling for a new tough sanctions against Putin. Many people are under the rubble, including children, said Andrea Yerk, top advisor to President Zelensky. The barrage began around 9:30 p.m., setting off air raid sirens and prompting urgent shelter notification warnings in nearly every region nationwide. As of right now, the attack has killed at least 10 people and injured at least 20. Missiles, drones, and bombs are spotted throughout the country, particularly in Kiev, but also in western regions of the country where attacks have been rarer. At least 4 Russian MiG-31 jets armed with, I'm going to try here, Kinzhal missiles took off during the attack, the Kiev Independent reported. At least 10 people, including a child in Kiev, were killed and more than 22 were injured, is what local authorities have said. Zelensky going to X last night, saying these Russian missiles and attack drones today are a clear response to everyone in the world who, for weeks and months, has been calling for a ceasefire and for real diplomacy. Russia chooses ballistics instead of the negotiating table. It chooses to continue killing instead of ending the war. And this means that Russia still does not fear the consequences. Russia still takes advantage of the fact that at least part of the world turns a blind eye to murdered children and seeks excuses for Putin. He said it is definitely time for new, tough sanctions against Russia. So that is an update that you may have missed because it came in late last night, a breaking story there. Now, what is also a breaking story, it's tragic, and our heart breaks in what we see in Minneapolis. We have a total of 19 people who were wounded in that shooting, all but 3 being children. 2 children, again, tragically, ages 8 and 10, have died. That is according to the Minneapolis police. 2 other children are in critical condition. The shooter, who we'll talk about in just a moment, was dressed in all black and armed with a rifle when she fired at the Annunciation Catholic Church just before 8:30 a.m. Now, this is, we're still learning a lot. And when we talk about any kind of tragedy on this program, and we've said this a million times, we want to take time and grieve and learn what happened instead of politicize it. Unfortunately, as is always the case, it has been politicized. We are going to talk about that aspect to it instead of all the horrible details, because it is an ongoing story. Pope Leo sharing his condolences, saying, while commending the souls of the deceased children to the love of Almighty God, His Holiness prays for the wounded as well as the first responders, medical personnel, and clergy who are caring for them and their loved ones. At this extremely difficult time, the Holy Father imparts to the Annunciation Catholic School community, the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis, and the people of the greater Twin Cities metropolitan area his blessings as a pledge of peace, fortitude, and consolation. Consolation, yes, in the Lord Jesus. FBI Director Kash Patel has confirmed that the agency is investigating this as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. That's something that many in the media have been downplaying. I don't want to... I get nervous when you start talking names and talking about the individual who did this, but we need to learn. Again, it is an ongoing, obviously, investigation. The suspected shooter, identified as Robert or Robin Westman, this is where it gets a little difficult. A trans woman. He identified... Westman identifies as a trans woman, carrying 3 firearms, a rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun. Court records show that a Minneapolis juvenile named Robert Westman had their name legally changed to Robin in 2019. And FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that the shooter was born Robert and later identified as Robin. We also learned that Westman's mother worked at the school but had since retired, and that Westman had attended the school at one point. The disturbing videos, and I guess the manifesto, if you will, that was released is, and this is where I don't want to get too much, I can't read much of what was said, or want to read much of what was said, written in a manifesto and also scrawled on the gun magazines, such things as "Kill Donald Trump," "For the Children." Again, this is not how I want to, obviously, ever want to start the program, but obviously it is breaking news and something that we do have to report on. In one 20-minute video, Westman flips through the disturbing handwritten manifesto, much of it written in a homespun code. In the deranged writings, he gleefully fantasizes about, quote, being that scary, horrible monster standing over those powerless kids. Your heart just breaks over this. But again, what we see by those in the media and certain politicians is an instant, almost knee-jerk reaction to politicize to the point where, and this has been a common theme when there's a horrific event like this, where certain politicians, and specifically in this case the mayor, almost denouncing thoughts and prayers at a time when we should be grieving, we should be praying, we should be thinking about those that have been, whose lives have been changed forever. Other things scrawled on various, either the magazines or in his manifesto: defend equality, free Palestine, said horrible things about the Jewish community. I hate fascism. He said in his manifesto that that they were originally going to target a big name like Musk or Trump or some significant executive, which the significant executive sounds like a kind of a copycat scenario. So just a horrific, evil individual. Again, the mayor is receiving a lot of criticism, Mayor of Minneapolis. We're going to talk about what he had to say about it, because he took it as a opportunity to, you could say, for lack of a better word, attack those who, for some reason, talk about trans issues, and then talks about, again, downplaying thoughts and prayers. But if you look at the media has relatively, depending on which outlet you go to, downplayed that this individual was trans. So I'm not sure where the mayor's anger comes from. As a matter of fact, if you look at the CNN piece, which I would suspect is about 7-8 pages, where it says police examine online videos, writings possibly linked to Minneapolis church shooting suspect. It is not until there's the last two paragraphs saying, quote, in 2019, the suspect's mother filed to legally change the suspect's name from Robert Paul Westman to Robin M. Westman. Court documents show a judge who approved the petition in January 2020 wrote that the suspect, quote, identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect that identification, end quote. A search of state court records showed no criminal history for Westman, but some traffic citations in 2021. So that's the last two paragraphs of a 7-page. So I'm not sure. That seems like a misplaced anger from the mayor. Now, the president released this yesterday as a mark of respect for the victims of the senseless acts of violence perpetrated on August 27, 2025 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. By the authority vested in me as President of the United States by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby order that the flag of the United States shall be flown at half-staff at the White House and upon all public buildings and grounds, at all military posts and naval stations, and all naval vessels of the federal government in the District of Columbia and throughout the United States and its territories and possessions until sunset, August 31st, 2025. I also direct that the flag shall be flown at half-staff for the same length of time at all United States embassies, consular offices, and other facilities abroad, including all military facilities and naval vessels and stations. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand this 27th day of August in the year of our Lord, 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 250th. So declaring that flags will be flown at half-staff. As I said, we're not going to get into any more of the horrific details, just talk about the unfortunate politicalization of this by those who see a tragedy like this and essentially never let a good tragedy go to waste. That kind of horrible mindset. We'll talk about that when we come back. That is not, I promise you, that is not the whole program, the whole broadcast. We do have a lot of other updates, so we're going to kind of go through this relatively quickly because it is so frustrating to see people try to politicize it. It does make us all angry. It makes us upset. So I don't like to do it, but I think it's necessary to kind of see where we're at on this Thursday morning. But we've got to take our first break. Stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And a viewer comment this morning. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. What you need are sewing pins for your map. Oh, good. Oh, good suggestion. Okay. I had bought big tacks, but they're kind of to highlight, almost to emphasize where people had called in from, but they were way too large. Okay, on the Minneapolis shooting, Chuck Schumer was pushing for gun control before facts were known. In the case, this becomes a common refrain, unfortunately, and this is the part of the program just quickly where we're going to talk about the politicalization of this. Amy Klobuchar doing the same. On Wednesday, she was on MSNBC, Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, saying, as you reported, he is dead, but more will, I'm sure, come out about his motive and why he would commit such a horrific act. Of course, it makes me think about guns and all the work we've done to ban these automatic rifles and do something when it comes to the background checks and everything, and we keep getting thwarted. We are able to pass a limited measure on a bipartisan basis, but not enough to stop something like this. It just makes you think about that as well. Without knowing the details about how he got that gun, if that gun was legal, what kind of gun it was, but it was clearly one of these automatic rifles to be able to shoot that many kids so fast. I've made this clear, and again, there'll be time to talk about this, but we need better laws on the books nationally. It just can't be in local states. It's got to be nationally on these assault weapons. And that is the first thing. They're there for the military. They should be for the police. They are not for a madman like this person. I also think you've got to continue to work on school safety issues. I actually was the lead sponsor of that bill, but we can do all we can on that. But when you have too much access to guns right now, and so many guns out there on the street, you're going to continue to see these kinds of mass shootings. I've got to say, I hate the fact that when you see something like this happen, you don't have a moment to grieve because you know that there's going to be talks like that before anything is known on the facts. Ilhan Omar, representative from Minnesota, was on CNN saying, this is a question that we've asked ourselves when Columbine, happened back when I was in high school. We've asked ourselves that question when we saw little babies being slaughtered in Sandy Hook. We continue to ask ourselves that question. What I can tell you is that we collectively have a solution. We know that we allow, as a country, for guns to be accessible to people in the easy way in the United States. We continue to have these kind of tragedies. We have to remember why federal legislation is important, because we do live in the United States of America. We are interconnected. And so constantly having, these conversations on local level or state level and not having them on the national level creates loopholes for people who are deranged to explore. And so I'm calling on my colleagues when we come back into Congress for us to put our differences aside, for us to recognize that partisanship is not saving our children. And, we are uniquely finding ourselves in a danger as a country here in the United States. So we uniquely need to figure out a way to resolve this issue and come to a common sense way of solving it. CNN's headline, Democrats renew calls for gun control after the Minnesota school shooting. So the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, I'd mentioned he, and this has almost become cliche when something like this happens, he fell into the line of thinking where thoughts and prayers aren't enough, which I think is very disrespectful. Having this happen at a Catholic school, he said, don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have that same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. Frey's plea was echoed by several Democrat leaders in Minnesota who renewed calls to address gun violence. Governor Tim Walz, saying, it's my strongest desire that no state, no community, no school ever experiences a day like this. Keep us in your thoughts and prayers, but also keep us in the thoughts for action. Keep us in the ideas that we can work together. I mentioned, Ilhan Omar saying that elected leaders are more concerned with appeasing the gun lobby than keeping our children safe. Wow. Suggesting that certain leaders don't care about keeping our children safe. I have a real problem with bringing these to you because it does, I think, get your blood boiling. Amy Klobuchar, as I mentioned, if a bunch of kids praying in a church and shut down through the windows of that church and locked into that by a madman isn't enough to make people move, I just don't know what is anymore. Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer writing, our prayers are with the victims, their families, and first responders on the scene. House Speaker Mike Johnson said the country was heartbroken over the tragic violence. Our prayers are with the children, families, civilians, law enforcement, all those impacted by the evil attack. So you see a different mindset where you have Mayor Frey downplaying and almost in a way ridiculing thoughts and prayers. He also took his press conference as an opportunity to go after those, and I haven't seen it. I'm not saying there's not there, but that talked about the transgender issues in regards to this because Robin Westman identified as a transgender woman. Frey said, I've heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who's using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. Look, we need to be doing more than talking. It can't just be words. There needs to be action. When we have seen school shootings after school shooting, when we have seen school shootings by horrible actors, to recognize that we've got more guns in this country than we have people. And it's on all of us to recognize that we can't just say that this shouldn't happen again and then allow it to happen again and again beyond that. Again, moments after this happens, the politicalization of it, but he is being slammed for what people are calling tone deaf and callous. I think callous is a very appropriate word, and how the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey handled this situation. Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying, and I would say that is very callous. Scott Jennings from CNN wrote, tragedy struck at Minneapolis Catholic School today, and the very first thing Mayor Jacob Frey did was attack people of faith for calling for prayer. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. Whatever your political ideology, there are a few moments where prayer is more appropriate. If you recall, Bo Snerdley, radio host Bo Snerdley, he accused the Democrat mayor of using the tragedy to slander Christians for thoughts and prayers. Dana Loesch saying nothing says idiot politicians like the guy who comes out and promptly attacks and mocks prayer after a tragedy. Former CIA officer Brian Dean Wright, called the mayor's words evidence of a deeper crisis. We are in a spiritual war with evil in this country. With this man and his leftist movement, a vehicle for a very dark force. This is exactly the time for prayer. So being called callous, again, tone deaf. Former Georgia Representative Vernon Jones said after the Minneapolis murders by a liberal Democrat, let me just skip ahead to this because it does get very political on this side as well. He asked the question, are Democrats now abandoning prayer? We do know that the media, and I'm going to talk about this in a second. I don't want to spend the whole show on this, but there's enough of the politicalization of this that we just have to mention it, and then we're going to move on. But I know that ABC News, CNN, they all downplayed the alleged shooter's Trump hatred and Catholic hatred. A senior Trump administration official said that, where is it here? That the magazines had such things as kill Donald Trump, as I mentioned earlier. A horrible statement. Where's your God? Israel must fall. During a segment on ABC News, correspondent Aaron Katursky mentioned that the alleged shooter wrote a manifesto and several other hateful messages while neglecting to say the specific Kill Donald Trump quote on a gun magazine. On CNN, in response to FBI Director Kash Patel's announcement that the shooting will be investigated as an anti-Catholic hate crime, Chief Law Enforcement Intelligence Analyst John Miller seemed to express trepidation about saying that the alleged shooter had anti-Catholic motives. Quote, there won't be a specific motive. He's got problems in his life. He has decided to blame everybody else. He has anti-black messages, anti-Semitic messages, anti-religious messages, anti-God messages. In other words, his motive is he hates everybody because his life's a mess, and he figures it's not his fault. Jen Psaki, I know I'm running late. Yeah, let's take a quick break. We're going to wrap up this discussion in this next segment, and then, but feel free to weigh in. I know, again, you want to grieve, you want to be praying, you want to be thinking about this and what happened. You don't want to be lectured about politics and that tone-deaf, callous mayor in Minneapolis and many of the elected officials or media pundits. So we're going to tell you just two, three, maybe quick more things, and then we're moving along. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Stu Binley Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
Is this your mom?
Yes.
And that's your dad?
Nope.
I'm the father. Even if you're the father, you're lying.
My family does not like my boyfriend.
Solid family.
I've had enough of this. I'm not your mommy.
Now you're just talking crazy.
Don't do that. I'm not your auntie, I'm your mother.
Can't cross mama and come in here and get treated nice. Your case is dismissed and so are you.
Albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition. Severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. So MSNBC's Jen Psaki, former Biden administration spokeswoman, blasted Trump's anti-crime crackdown in D.C. and the power of prayer as she reacted to the church shooting in Minnesota. In the aftermath of mass shootings, Americans are often offer prayers for victims, their families, and communities. And as one commentator said, this is the exact time you need prayer. In Catholic and Orthodox traditions, prayers for the dead ask that their souls be received into heaven. But many gun control advocates deride prayer, arguing it's not enough. And this happened, I don't know, I was on the radio at the time. I remember when that started becoming the refrain. There was that enough with your thoughts and prayers, do something. That's a rallying cry for many left issues. Do something. That's what they've been saying to their Democrat representatives in regards to the Trump administration. Just do something. That happened, I'm going to guess about a decade ago, where the idea that you attack thoughts and prayers. It's just so callous. But Psaki echoed that view, saying, prayer is not... Now, she didn't really cuss, but I still don't want to say this. Prayer is not blanking enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayer does not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. Jen Psaki. I don't even like saying that. Prayers are not enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayer does not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. Continuing in a follow-up tweet. When kids are getting shot in their pews at a Catholic school mass and your crime plan is to have National Guard put mulch down around D.C., maybe rethink your strategy. Now, some social media users objected to her commentary, saying, I don't expect a spiritually blind person to understand prayer, but it is real. Today, I attended the funeral of a baby, and often when parents are in the depths of grief, Jesus is their greatest comforter. You should investigate why that is rather than belittling it. Karen Hamilton, a candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates, responded. Washington Examiner contributor Kimberly Ross pointed out that Psaki had posted her own message in 2017 saying thoughts and prayers with Steve Scalise and Officer Schott, and thank you to members Hill staff for your public service. Journalist Megan Basham said, your party encourages... I'm not going to go through every single quote. As I said, I'm going to move along here. But to tie that in with the National Guard being in D.C. as well. Then she went on her program, Jen Psaki again, on the briefing on MSNBC. I don't know. I think that's the name of her program. While speaking with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who was, again, to keep stealing those phrases, tone deaf and callous in his attack on thoughts and prayers, and also, well, we'll continue with what Psaki had to say. She said, it's so fresh here. It's just happened this morning, and there's already been some effort, which I think is so sick and disgusting, to weaponize some of the details, even if we don't know a lot at this point in time. And obviously the law enforcement in your city has been keeping people abreast, including details about the individual possibly being trans, about the individual possibly having negative things to say about Trump, about some things that have been on the weapons. A lot of this is just very early reporting. She then asked Frey, what do you do as the leader of your city to prevent details from being weaponized and using this to blame something other than the guns? So the only thing to blame is a gun, not the individual. That is Jen Psaki's line of reasoning. Gavin Newsom, potential presidential candidate in 2028, I would argue probably right now the front runner, essentially blaming Republicans for this. Even though we learned that what was scrawled on the magazines, Newsom and others immediately used this opportunity to blame Republicans, even though the state of Minnesota has a stricter gun control law than those of Republican-controlled states. We cannot even make it through the first week of school without a mass shooting, and the GOP will continue to do absolutely nothing while our kids are being gunned down. This is sick, Newsom wrote on social media. One Twitter user seeing that saying, what is sick is a governor trying to score political points off an absolute tragedy in another state. This man is politics and self above all else. What is sick is that you can't make it until they even find out how many poor victims there are before you start pathetically trying to politicize these murders. So Gavin Newsom blaming the GOP as the news was still fresh. Okay. As promised, we move along. You can weigh in on it. I'll say it. I know it's not popular, apparently, among many of the political elite, but our thoughts and prayers, of course, are to the people and the families whose lives are forever affected after yesterday's shooting in that horrible, tragic scenario. The power of prayer is real, and to downplay it and to try to weaponize every aspect of this is just, well, it makes you just angry when you should be grieving. So we do offer our thoughts and prayers, and we do so somberly, but proudly. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some breaking news and some updates from throughout the week. We have a lot to cover this morning. So as promised, we're going to move along from that topic, but feel free to weigh in at any time. It is still a breaking story. We're still learning. So please feel free to weigh in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
It's Monday again, but I love this job. It was hard to get though. No one gave me a chance.
I found a problem, it fixed.
Perfect. Thank you, Joshua.
Aren't you glad we hired him?
Yes, I am.
Don't underestimate people with disabilities. Visit thearc.org/yes to see what's possible.
Dante Brown, Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today with all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm sorry, just putting together some of the comments. Where is this? Okay, thank you. All right, sorry. You don't know what I'm talking about here. We got a lot of good comments coming in. Here we go. Homeland Security issued a red alert for attacks on churches in the U.S. months ago. Walz was asked to provide security for schools and refused. Mayor Frey has done nothing to provide security as well. Mayor Frey, his reaction to this, I think, there's been a lot of bad reactions to this tragedy. His was, I think, more, well, Gavin Newsom's was very self-serving too. But Frey did not handle this to what I would think would be a great level. Yes, this person pointing out that the school is a gun-free zone. That's a major issue too, something that the media doesn't talk about. A comment from a different viewer. Once again, the shallow, scatterbrained Democrats miss the point and, as usual, end up on the wrong side of an issue. Thank you very much. And Jack from Elmira writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Jack. One thing is clear, you can eradicate all weapons on the planet, but it's impossible to do the same with mental illness and evil and hate. In biblical times, people were stoned to death. I don't think eliminating stones is an answer. In my opinion, removing religion from schools and media changed our roots. In the shooter's deranged mind, it was like he was trying to make religion meaningless by providing his perceived evidence through killing praying innocent angels. This should be about the attack on the heart of our faith and civility, not about guns. That's a very good point, Jack. It is this depraved individual, and what was written on the magazines showed an evil that should be focused on, and to your point, the mental health because that was a person filled with hate. But moving along from that topic, but again, you can feel free to weigh in at any time. Yesterday, I want to know your thoughts on this. CDC Director Susan Menarez, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Menarez, was fired after refusing calls to resign, and this is less than a month after being sworn in. Menarez's removal comes after she was reportedly issued an ultimatum by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Quit or be fired. Quote, as her attorney's statement makes abundantly clear, Susan Menarez is not aligned with the president's agenda of making America healthy again. White House spokesman Kush Desai said in a statement, since Susan Menarez refused to resign despite informing HHS leadership of her intent to do so, the White House has terminated Menarez and her position with the CDC. The clash, again, Menarez only been sworn in a month. It stems from Kennedy and a disagreement over vaccine policy the two had. The official claimed RFK demanded Menarez's resignation Monday, and when she refused, he ordered her to fire top CDC leaders by the end of the week. Kennedy demanded a second meeting with a public health official on Tuesday when he accused Menarez of being a leaker and told her she would be fired after learning that she called Senate Health Committee Chairman Bill Cassidy following the Monday meeting. A post on HHS said Susan Menarez is no longer director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We thank her for her dedicated service to the American people. Kennedy has full confidence in his team at CDC, who will continue to be vigilant in protecting Americans against infectious diseases at home and abroad. No replacement has been named. I understand her lawyer accused the Trump administration of targeting their client and said she has neither resigned nor received notification from the White House that she has been fired. As a person of integrity and devoted to science, she will not resign. Wow. Attorneys Abe Lowell, who previously represented Hunter Biden and Ms. Cross, is that her name? The Fed Gov. Wow, that's interesting. Abby Lowell's getting a lot of work from this administration. The Abby Lowell continued, when CDC Director Susan Menarez refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, she chose protecting the public over serving a political agenda. For that, she has been targeted. This is not about one official. It's about the systemic dismantling of public health institutions, the silencing of experts, and the dangerous politicalization of science. The attack on Dr. Menarez is a warning that every American, our evidence-based systems are being undermined from within. So this is a new chapter in Trump's terms where people are being told to resign or be fired. When they're fired, they hire a lawyer. I don't remember it being as prevalent, but this Abe Lowell, who represented Hunter Biden and now is representing so many others, getting a lot of work. Stephen Collinson at CNN said that this shows that RFK Jr. is tightening his grip. Politically engineered chaos is destabilizing the top of America's vital public health institutions. Again, Stephen Collinson from CNN. As Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s tenure challenges the historic role of government in widening access to vaccines. The ouster of Dr. Susan Menarez as director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, less than a month after she was sworn in, deepened concerns about the role of Kennedy, who has a history of vaccine skepticism. It will fuel fresh concerns the Trump administration is politicizing medicine, rejecting science, and creating new risks to public health. Several other top CDC officials also announced that they were quitting, sending shockwaves through an agency long regarded as the global gold standard that has been seriously diminished by the Trump administration. Top health experts describe the loss of senior staffers as reckless, a disaster, and ruinous to evidence-based public health policy. I wonder who those top health experts are. CNN reported that Menarez's firing comes after days of pressure from Kennedy's deputy chief of staff and confidant, Stephanie Speer. According to two people familiar with the situation, Menares also clashed with Kennedy and his team over vaccine policies, including an impending announcement that could draw links between immunization and autism. The latest drama at the CDC follows an attack by a gunman on the agency's headquarters in Atlanta earlier this month, which killed a police officer. The horror further fractured morale at the agency, devastated by mass layoffs. Combined with vast changes to health guidance and policy being pushed through by the Trump administration and huge cuts to federal health funding at elite research universities that have foregoed life-saving breakthroughs, the latest shocks are plunging American public health into deep uncertainty. Man, everything is the sky falling, isn't it? All this raises the risk that an administration devoted to making America healthy again could end up complicit in many unnecessary deaths in years to come. Destructive chaos and absolute disaster is the terms that they are using. There you are. That's CNN and Stephen Collinson. All right. When we come back, and the reason I brought that one up is it was a breaking story coming out yesterday. We do have quite a few updated stories for you from our last few broadcasts and a couple New York State issues that I think that are worth noting to get your opinion on. But feel free to weigh in on any of these topics or any other topic you would like. We'd love to hear from you, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So someone brought this to my attention. Did you hear the RNC picked Joe Gruters as party chair? He is well known in Florida as anti-constitutional. I need more background information on that because I know Trump, I don't know a lot about Mr. Gruters, but I know Trump very strongly endorsed him to lead the party. So I'll need some more background on that, and I didn't have time to research. But I'm glad that you mentioned it. We didn't talk about it last week, that the Republican National Committee did elect Florida's Joe Gruters as its new chair. He's succeeding Michael Whatley, who's now running for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina. So thank you for that. All right. This is interesting. I don't know what Cracker Barrel is doing. So you don't need all the updates. We followed it perhaps too closely on this program because it was kind of fascinating. But of course, they backtracked on their logo change, and Trump praised them for that. But now Cracker Barrel has quietly removed the Pride page from its website after facing consumer backlash over its rebranding efforts. And it just seems like now they're trying to go a completely different direction to win back some of their customers, win back some of their support. The website link for Cracker Barrel's Pride page, which used to boast that the company was, quote, bringing the porch to pride, now redirects it to culture and belonging. At Cracker Barrel, welcoming people has always been at the heart of who we are. When we take care of one another, we are able to take even better care of the people who walk through our doors. Now, we know the company has been under intense scrutiny these last few weeks. Many are calling for the CE, even after they changed, they didn't really change the logo, brought back the logo, no matter what that cost was. There are still many that are suggesting that the CEO should be fired. I know, and I've never had any of this brand's food, but was it Shake Shack? Something like that. They're really attacking her, calling for her to be fired. So I just want to give you that update. They seem to be getting they're trying to get out of this mess and just angering both sides. We talked about it on the program because you've got the original anger, arguably from conservatives, but I think it was from just a whole host of people that didn't like the logo change. But then when Trump said that they should change the logo back and they quote unquote caved to Trump, even though I think it was only a matter of time, even if Trump didn't say anything, they had to, their stocks were plummeting. Then you had those on the left that were upset at the Cracker Barrel because they caved to Trump. So they have found themselves in one of those, not a situation you would envy as a PR, public or marketing, I should say, PR or marketing or CEO, not a scenario you'd want to be in. Now, we learned yesterday that the CEO and other top execs were warned by an investor, major investor, that the logo change was a very bad idea and that they're kind of diving in too deep into this kind of culture war, if you will, and they did not heed his warning. You would like to know what the final price tag is. Not on the stock drop. That's went back up a little bit, back and forth. You would like to know what the final cost, because branding and marketing, those ad companies, they cost a lot of money. And this has been in the works for over a year. So how much merchandise did they already buy? How many, how quick was the website changed so that they could put the new logos up and all of these things? I mean, it wasn't just the announcement of the logo. There was a lot of things in the works that I'm sure cost a lot. And someone pointed out yesterday with the remodeling, I don't know how the remodeling efforts are going to go at some of these places, if they're already on order, if they're going to backtrack on that. That's one I haven't really heard any updates on, but it would be interesting to know what the final price tag is, because it's probably, and you wouldn't believe it, but I'm sure probably in the multi-millions. Branding efforts and marketing is expensive on its own, never mind how they were already ready to roll it out. What type of things did they buy in that effort? Did they buy the gigantic signs at the top of the building? Those type of things. Okay, just passing that along quickly. We have a couple other updates we're going to get to, and then some stories that we can actually kind of take our time and dive into. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox getting ready to wrap up hour number 1.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
First life moment. Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. Your kids may be eligible now, even if you've applied before. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Get started now at insurekidsnow.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio, getting ready to wrap up our number one. We have some updates on a lot of major stories. We're going to talk about D.C. We're going to be talking about New York as well. A couple immigration updates. I did want to, let's wrap up this hour because it's been a tough hour. Let's face it. We've had some very heartbreaking stories that we've brought to you at the beginning of the show with the Minneapolis shooting. So let's end the hour on this. We brought to you the story about Vanity Fair potentially offering Melania Trump the cover. Now, you would think that's a no-brainer. She should be on as much as former first ladies. I had the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but Michelle Obama had been on the cover numerous times. Dr. Jill, I'm sure. But having said that, there was outrage behind the scenes by staffers at Vanity Fair. Now, a lot of people thought it was bluster, but people saying that they would leave, they would quit if she was on the front cover. Well, it turns out she's not the slightest bit interested in the magazine anyway. A fashion source told the New York Post that the First Lady said that she laughed. They said that she laughed at the Vanity Fair request in July and rejected it immediately. So it's actually old news. Maybe a way for Vanity Fair to think that they could get some new purchases, new people buying their magazine if they're anti-Trump, if they thought all their staffers were anti-Trump. Quote, she doesn't have time to be sitting in a photo shoot. Her priorities as First Lady are far more important. These people don't deserve her anyway. The magazine's new global editor-director, Mark Guducci, tried to woo Mrs. Trump back in July, but when his employees found out this week, they threatened to quit their job. So he tried back in July. She turned it down, so it's no longer even a story, but in the typical virtue signaling, those in the staff had to show their hatred for Trump and say that they would step away, they would quit if she's on the front cover. Saying, I will walk out that blanking door and half my staff will follow me if I have to work. Bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, I'll do it. It sickens me. Half the editorial staff will walk out, I guarantee it, said one worker. Anyway. But Mrs. Trump has no need for such low-rent validation to be on the front cover of Vanity Fair. She is her own fashion plate every day. In any case, she is busy with multiple projects, including Fostering for the Future to support children in foster care and her Be Best initiative from the first term, which aims to combat cyberbullying and opioid abuse. She also successfully championed the Take It Down Act, which requires social media platforms to remove non-consensual intimate images. This week saw her take on a whole new role, leading the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge to inspire children to embrace AI technologies. So she laughed when asked to be on the front cover and turned it down of Vanity Fair. On that note, we got to wrap up hour number one. Still a lot to cover. Feel free to weigh in on any of the issues we've been discussing this morning. And we will be right back with hour number two after this.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
In today's securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselsen's in Amara Heights. At Hesselsen's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselsen's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselsen's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. Thank you for joining us. We do have a lot left to cover, and we only have 1 hour to do so. So I hope that you'll send in your comments. I hope that you'll send in your waves. We had a very important wave this morning as they were doing a boat tour. They were watching Frankly Speaking in Rudesheim. How do you like that? That's our good friends, Brian and Chris. Chris and Brian, depending on you're looking at the screens. Chris and Brian. All right. And I do have my map if the guys are still watching, but I hope that they're enjoying their boat tour. So we've had some international waves. And I realize I keep reading them at the beginning of the show. So some of you who maybe did not set your alarm, you keep missing our international waves this week. It's been a lot of fun. All right, yesterday, this is big news. Trump threatens to prosecute George Soros and his, quote, wonderful radical left son. We're watching you. He took to Truth Social saying George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more, all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore. Never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Uh-oh. You know he means business when he puts that at the end of a post. Now, you know about George Soros, billionaire, longtime funder of far-left causes and candidates. His son, Alex Soros, took over his father's Soros Open Society Foundation back in 2024, or 2023. Isn't he married to Huma Abedin that was married to Anthony Weiner? I don't think I'm wrong about that. Trump's threats come less than a week after his FBI raided his foreign policy advisor turned critic John Bolton's home and office as part of what many consider to be a politically motivated investigation. Both the Wall Street Journal and National Review have editorialized against the investigation of Bolton, with the former observing that, quote, vengeance is a large part, maybe the largest part, of how Trump will define success in his second term. And what was the other outlet that I mentioned? And the National Review saying, sounds more like a personalized grievance against a fierce Trump critic rather than a dispassionate probe of a particular violation of the law. Oh, this is just to, how do I want to say this without coming off arrogant? I think this just vindicates what I've been saying about town halls, okay? So, and I've had a lot of people disagree with me on this. I have said because of the anger out there, and so much anti-Trump hate and unfortunately political violence and threats, I don't think now is a time for representatives to hold in-person town halls. I just don't. And again, I know I've heard from a lot of people that it disagreed, but I don't think they are being requested in good faith. They're being requested so that people can go to the events and scream and shout down either the representative or supporters of the representative. And I think the problem is you don't have the conversation that is supposed to take place at a town hall. And I've had story after story after story that confirms that, whether it's Mike Lawler, we've talked about holding town halls and having that happen. There was someone, I want to say out of Arizona, that had it happen. And the problem was with Mike Lawler, he holds them like people were demanding. He holds them, and then he gets criticism from the media because, you know, someone got dragged out, let's say, or, you know, because they were causing a disturbance, or One media person walked out because they were not allowed to take pictures of his. They were told they were not allowed to take pictures of his staff members, which seems very reasonable to me because of the real threats on staff. And that's been one of my issues with it. If a representative holds a town hall, it's not just them that are in danger. It is all, and they know what they're getting into when they run for politics, don't get me wrong, but it's not just them that are in danger, it's their staff members, sometimes interns that are helping put together these town halls. So because of them not being demanded in good faith, and because there is no conversation, they just want to boo and shout and embarrass their representative so that then they can record it on their cameras, and then places like CNN can have headlines that, say red congressman, deep red, wherever, gets screamed at by constituents trying to prove that not only is that person hated, but everybody hates Trump. Well, then just to say that how do I want to word it? That was with people that you could argue were conservative, or Lawler is considered a moderate. But Susan Collins, Senator Susan Collins, who has very often voted against the will, if you will, of President Trump, Susan Collins of Maine was heckled and drowned out at times by demonstrators. This wasn't even at a town hall. This was at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. And this happened to Elise Stefanik as well. Now, Stefanik, of course, a strong conservative, very strong conservative. No, we have not heard. I know people keep asking. No, she has not declared that she's running for governor as of yet. She's not going to, and probably till November. She looks like she's on track for that, right? But now we have a scenario where not only are town halls no longer safe, ribbon-cutting events aren't. And think of this, says Senator Susan Collins, who is, some would even argue not even moderate, some would argue almost a Democrat, on the verge of being a Democrat. People yelling, shame, shame, and NBC News loving to report this. Shame, shame. The demonstrators were yelling about cuts to Medicare, Israeli attacks on Gaza, and President Donald Trump's nominees on the Supreme Court. Could you please just listen for just one, Collins said at one point before she was again interrupted. We'd like you to listen, one demonstrator yelled, while another chastised Collins for not holding any town halls with constituents. Think of that, as you're screaming down a ribbon-cutting event and not letting your senator speak, you then lecture them about not doing town halls. So she can just go pay for a room, have her staffers come and work after hours to go to a town hall just so she could be screamed at in the same childish manner. It's about, town halls are supposed to be about having a conversation. And if they really were about having a conversation going, hey, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Representative, I believe this is right that Trump has done, or this is wrong that Trump has done, and then your representative responds on how they believe, that'd be one thing. It's not that anymore. Now even ribbon cuttings are no longer safe. At one point, Collins even said, I have a suggestion. Would you listen to the suggestion? Nope. That's when a protester offered vote Graham Plattner, apparently someone running against Susan Collins. She tried reasoning with the crowd. There is no reasoning with crowds like this, with mobs like this. Ask them to let her get through this brief ceremony before being interrupted again. Feel bad for where the ribbon cutting was. I don't know. It hasn't said. I hope it wasn't like a brand new business. Oh, there it is. The completion of long-running Route 1 construction project in Searsport. Collins, a moderate Republican and sometime Trump critic, not always voting with Trump, gestured to the organizers behind her and asked the crowd to show them respect. One of the demonstrators yelled that they did respect them, but that we don't respect you, according to videos posted online by TikTok users. See, the media loves to run with these videos, try to make them go viral. Collins saying, demonstrators seem to be part of the political world nowadays. It was interesting to see how much misinformation they had. This is why, and I don't think Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski, I don't think they're going to ever change their opinion. This is why I always thought it was really kind of interesting to me with like John McCain. Yeah, Lisa Murkowski. I thought I was right. There are two that you can pretty consistently see that they're going to vote against Trump, whether for nominations, whether for certain bills, these type of things. So they're not by any way, shape, or form some Reagan conservative. So for them to get yelled at is goes to show you there is no winning in this scenario. for specifically Republicans, and we learned that not even for Democrats. Some Democrats holding town halls and their constituents screaming at them, saying that they're not doing enough to thwart, if you will, the Trump agenda. But what I was going to say before I got on that little bit of tangent, John McCain was like this. He would be a quote-unquote maverick, because you're a maverick if you vote against your party's own interest, right? If you vote against Republicans, the media loves you. He thought he was going to continue to be loved when he ran for president. He thought the media always gave him great attention, gave him great reviews because he voted against Republicans so often. The moment he became the presidential candidate for the Republican Party, they turned on him quickly. They hated him. They even early on tried to put these exposés out there that he had, I want to say, had an affair or something like that. It was hit piece after hit piece. I don't think he saw what was coming. I don't think Susan Collins and the Lisa Murkowskis of the world, and even to a little bit, I'm drawing a blank. I just had a blank. But they're never going to see from their constituents who they think are going to love them if they be that quote-unquote maverick. They're never going to see the respect. You can never go far enough to the left. You have to keep going to the left and pushing. So this just fascinates me. It really does. Protests and demonstrations against elected members of Congress in recent months have led some politicians on both sides of the aisle to cancel town halls or avoid them altogether. Representative Warren Davidson of Ohio was among the Republicans to buck that trend, defending Trump's big wins at a town hall on Wednesday evening to a crowd of largely upset with the president's decision to deploy the National Guard to D.C. So a crowd that was upset about something that wasn't happening in their own state. Davidson said President Trump is doing a great job at securing the border, which triggered blaring boos and jeers from the audience, because that audience wants open, porous borders, apparently. Apparently, some of you aren't happy with secure borders either, said Davidson. There is no winning. Feel free to disagree with me. But Mitch McConnell is who I was trying to think of. I could think it was Lindsey Graham. But Mitch McConnell, to a point, I mean, he's not going to be loved by the media and by, not that he's out there campaigning. I find it disingenuous right now to hold a town hall. And I know people disagree with me. They want their town hall so they can scream at their representative and not really accomplish anything. It's the way of the left right now. It's the way of the constant demonstration and the kind of wanting that chaos at these town halls. That's why when they hold one of these empty chair town halls to try to highlight the fact that their representative isn't showing up, I think they'd be disappointed. Their biggest disappointment would be if that representative actually walked in and sat down in that chair, because they want the optics. Just like they want the optics of them screaming at their representative, they want this kind of anger to show. They've got to be the one that's showing that they care the most, that they hate Trump and supporters of Trump the most. So they need to get these videos to prove that to their like-minded friends. So that was nearly a 10-minute rant just to try to say, I still think I'm right. How's that? We got some comments coming in, and we're going to take a break. When we come back, a little bit here about the National Guard in Washington, D.C., and then something interesting about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. There's an opinion piece out today by Bata Unger Sagan, which is kind of interesting. I hope we have a chance to get to that. But stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Keep summer in gear at the Nissan End of Summer Sales Event. With a Rogue that offers more standard power than CR-V in Tucson. Frontier with a standard V6 unlike Tacoma, and an IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus like Pathfinder or Murano. It's no wonder why J.D. Power named Nissan #1 in new vehicle quality. Hurry in to the Nissan End of Summer Sales Event. Now get 0% APR for 60 months on select popular models, or get a low $239 per month lease on Rogue.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of comments here about the issue of town halls. First up, this viewer writes, I'm very much in agreement with you, Frank. Well, thank you. That's always going to get you put to the top of the list. It's a shame that we have gotten to this point, but it's reality, and we need to face it. This is in reference to town halls. And I want to say, full disclaimer here, and full disclosure, I helped put together numerous town halls in the past for our congressman, for Congressman Reed and Congressman Semplinsky when I worked for the United States House of Representatives. So I'm not anti-overall town halls. Now is not the time because they're not being done in good faith. But I'll continue. It's a shame that we've gotten to this point, but it's a reality and we need to face it. I've mentioned before on your show, I've been to town halls before where it was basically hijacked by a teacher in Chemung County whose name was well known. Tom Reed called her by name, as she is no doubt a, quote, frequent flyer, a frequent disruptor. They're not there because they want to hear policies or gather information. They are there for the sole purpose to disrupt, agitate, and annoy. It's not fair to those of us who want to learn. I agree. It's just not, it's not productive. Because if you actually go to that town hall and say, I'm not going to shout anybody down. I want to hear what this representative thinks about the big, beautiful bill or thinks about Trump's policies. Or I want to be able to say, oh, I disagree with this. Would you, and the representative, congressman and woman, saying, oh, thank you, taking in the perspectives. It's not that anymore. Comment from a different viewer. Okay, truly, how many people has Trump supposedly gone after compared to the Biden administration? Well, that's a good point, and Trump just gets all the coverage when Biden got absolutely no coverage. So that's a fair point. Who is paying the protesters? That's the sad thing. Do I believe that there are paid protesters in these town halls? I do. I'm not denying that. I think it's the sad ones that aren't paid and don't know that they're volunteering for these political organizations that are paying others good money to go out and protest. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't think when you see a group at Corning, or I know they hold some in Elmira or wherever, don't think they're all paid. Yeah, they may be, if you want to think of getting paid as here's a more professional sign or here's some way, but no, there are people that are definitely getting paid. It's sad the ones that don't get the money. They're just joining the mob and not realizing that the loudest agitators are probably the ones making good money. So but who is paying? A lot of times, we mentioned George Soros earlier, the Open Society Foundation, and some of the other organizations like that. We've had the names in the past that have been shown to be donating and spending a lot of money. There was that one group. What was it for? It was one of those days of resistance that they were holding so often. They seem to be calming down, unless they're just not sending me press releases anymore. There was one every couple of weeks, every couple of days in our area, to the point of, I don't know, unless you're retired, how you could make all of them, or unless you didn't care about enjoying any of your summer. I don't know how you could have made any of them. But there was a big national one. And remember, there was an organization that was asked, I didn't know they had companies like this, but companies that will actually put together large crowds to make your event look more successful. And they were asked, or they were given the opportunity to make millions of dollars to stock these certain protests and make them look huge, and they turned it down. So yes, there's a lot of different moving pieces there of how many organizations are actually paying these protesters. Continuing, okay, town hall, put political candidate in one room, but the crowd in another room. Do a live video feed so the camera is only on the politician and the one person asking the question. And when the politician goes to answer, everything from the other room is muted. It's not a bad idea. That's kind of what's being done with Congressman Langworthy with the teletown halls. So there's not a camera. You're not actually in person. You can actually do it from the comfort of your own home. So still very much you actually get to be heard. You don't get shouted down if you're asking him questions, and you actually get to hear his answers. So I think that's a more effective way to do it. And finally, a comment from a different viewer. Isn't it possible to have a police presence at these town halls where the police could remove the rabble if they continue to disrupt the meeting? The optics on that. Mike Lawler had to remove a almost violent lady, but who happened to be older, just screaming, yelling, disrupting the whole thing. And the whole headline was elderly woman kicked out of Lawler event with pictures of her being dragged away with police. They'll say that you're authoritarian because you use law enforcement. That's not a winning. I think it would be a common sense solution, but it wouldn't be a winning politically optic solution for optics. The PR, the media would run with it, that you had to have an armed police presence to control all the people that were so mad at you and Trump's policies, because now you're in a red district and everybody hates you and everybody hates Trump in that red district, even suggesting that even Republicans hate him. It's all so predictable, folks. It really is. Did you see the time? I'm going to take a break, but before that, Trump's D.C. takeover caused violence to plummet 45%. Even D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser had to admit it, saying we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The difference between this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents an 87% reduction in carjacking. Because with all this presence, carjacking is not an easy one to get away with. It is if there's not a lot of people around, or no law enforcement, I should say, around. So an 87% reduction in carjacking since last year. Violent crime has fallen by 45% when compared to the same period in 2024, while crime overall dipped 15%. The mayor saying we know that when carjackings go down, when the use of guns go down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. Indu Bataille, who runs a liquor store half a mile from the White House, agreed, telling the New York Post, all my employees, including me, we feel much more safe. And even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store. She said her store was robbed so many times that they had to sink piles of cash into renovation to increase security. All we could do as a small business owner is protect ourselves, 10 times higher than New York City. Violence has been trending down so far this year, but certain categories of crime that affect everyday Washingtonians have skyrocketed since the pre-pandemic era. Carjacking surged 241% between 2019 and 2024, and vehicle thefts were up 143%. The murder rate, though down from pandemic highs, is still 12% higher than it was in 2019. Supporters of Trump and his decision to take over Washington, D.C. say they're hoping it can help clean up the city. So there you go. Violence plummeting 45%. Carjackings, 87% reduction. But J.D. Vance saying yesterday to USA Today that Trump doesn't want long-term occupation of American cities. I know I got to take a break. Vice President J.D. Vance saying we don't want indefinitely to put National Guardsmen on the streets of our cities. We just want to make those streets more safe, which is fair. Saying, where is this? Vance, in a wide-ranging interview with USA Today, said, I think you obviously have to make that determination based on the local crime rates of whether or not they stay or how long they stay. What's happening with murders? What's happening with armed robberies? What's happening with carjacking? Vance said Trump would prefer working in concert with states and cities. One of two executive orders Trump signed on August 11th directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to coordinate with state governors to determine whether National Guard troops are needed in their communities. But the vice president also said Trump has the legal authority to deploy the National Guard to cities whether they want the help or not. Quote, I think that he could provide it even without the request. But fundamentally, the president, I think right now, what he has said is we want to work together with these localities. We want to bring law and order back to American streets. Vance said the president's view is that 30 days is probably not enough if you look at how bad the crime problem has gotten there in Washington, D.C. We don't want people to stand up before a press conference, accuse the president of being a fascist, accuse the National Guard of being some sort of dictatorial coup, when in private they're actually thanking us for bringing law and order back to their communities. That's a great point. And we heard even Joe Scarborough admit that. There's a lot of people, politicians, but also kind of the liberal elite who are saying this is wrong. They're going out and banging on their pots and pans at 8 o'clock, which is actually a protest move that they're making. They're doing this, but behind closed doors, they love the fact that they can walk down the street safely. They love the fact that they can visit that liquor store and is not getting, that they mentioned in the post, and is not getting robbed. They like that one video showed a resident driving around and saying, this is the first time I felt comfortable stopping at a red light at night in a long time. So then not being harassed, not being threatened. So there you are. There's your update. Now we got a couple other things because there's talk about going to Chicago, and J.B. Pritzker is getting full of bluster. But then we're going to go through some things quickly, because we have a lot to cover and we are running a little bit late. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread missile attack. Highest hospitalization. Evacuation in the West.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Leonard Skinner tonight at the State Fair. Awesome. Are you going? Always puts on an amazing show. They always put on an amazing show. Nothing worse than saying he. I didn't say he. When you're talking about Leonard Skinner, they put on an awesome show. I had the real pleasure years ago to talk with, and it was quite an interview. One of the best interviews I've probably ever participated in, because you know it's a good interview when you forget you're doing the interview, and this is more suited for radio, and you get kind of just lost in what they're saying, and you have to snap out of it. Like, you're not just listening to an interview, you're participating with Artemis Pyle, their old drummer. Now I don't think he's playing with them in this current setup of Skinner, but he was on the plane when it crashed, and he told step-by-step detail of what happened. Did you know that? So he is involved in the crash. He runs to get help, because remember, it's not cell phone time. I don't know why we're talking Skinner. And he's running, and he runs to a farmhouse to try to get help, and must be because of his long hair and bloodied up. He was shot at by the farmer after you just went through a plane crash and saw all that. It's an amazing story. But if you're going tonight, let me know. And if you do, take some pictures. I'd love to hear how the show is. They always put on an amazing show. Okay, so we're talking about crime. A Chicago pastor is pushing back against claims that the city's crime crisis is improving. That's the kind of the left talking point now. No matter where you look, crime is just pretty much over. And we know it's them manipulating statistics and figures, and that's very easy to do, especially when you put rules on the books. Like, think of all the public safety reforms that we have here in New York State. So raise the age, the bail reform, all these different things that can really be used or misused when it comes to statistics. But Pastor Corey Brooks, who leads Project HOOD, Project Hood, a violence prevention group on the city's south side, said Wednesday that the community has already seen 254 deaths in 233 days, with 80% of those victims being young black kids. 254 with 80%. That's updated figures from the city's official crime dashboard now show 266 homicides this year, averaging more than one a day. Brooks telling Fox and Friends, for anyone in our community to say that things are getting better and that people are safe, that is an outright lie. The pastor, we talked about this gentleman in the past because he's trying to do a lot in Chicago. We mentioned that he is not what you would consider, or he is what you would consider a conservative. Sorry, I was talking about Susan Collins before. Not what you consider he is what you would consider a conservative. The pastor is urging Trump to deploy the National Guard to Chicago, pointing to the administration's recent crackdown on D.C. He argues that Illinois leaders are blocking similar actions in Chicago for political purposes. Quote, one of the number one priorities of government is to make sure that citizens of America stay safe. And that should be the number one priority of the governor and the mayor, but it's not. The only things that they're really concerned with when it comes to Black Lives Matter is Black Lives Matter that vote. Ooh. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, both Democrats, have both rejected Trump's offer of federal intervention. Pritzker saying, Mr. President, do not come to Washington. Brooks insists that the violence is personal to his community. There's no doubt about it that crime is still a serious problem in the city of Chicago. We still have mothers who are burying young boys, and their sons are dying prematurely. That is a serious issue. And for individuals to make us to try to feel as if we're witnessing things getting better, that we're witnessing things getting better, that's not right. Brooks acknowledged that sending the National Guard would only be a temporary fix, but said it could provide a much-needed break in the cycle of violence. I realize that the National Guard is a temporary fix, but it will calm things down. It's up to organizations like ours to continue to do the solutions and bring the help that we need. We have to speak out. We have to say something. We have to let the world know that this is an issue in Chicago, and we can't let the mayor nor the governor dictate what is said. Now, Pritzker said actions will be met with a response, getting a little blustery. Unlike Donald Trump, we keep our promises, the governor wrote. We will not stand idly by if he decides to send the National Guard to intimidate Chicagoans. Actions will be met with a response. What is the threat? Now, he has used very strong, borderline, violent rhetoric in the past because he was trying to make a name for himself as the leader of the resistance because he wants to run for president, but he's not what you consider perhaps the top tier. The top tier would be Kamala Harris, just because of name recognition and the fact that she spent $2 billion that the DNC is still paying for. I think I read yesterday that they've already paid $15 million this year to help pay down Kamala's debts. But anyway, she spent all that name recognition. She's got that. Number 2, I believe, is Gavin Newsom, last that I saw. So those are kind of the top tier. I think last I heard, Pritzker was down towards the bottom. I want to say like 8th. Yes, there's that many people. Right, but so what did he do? He wanted to make a name for himself, so he went out and had this press conference about Trump, and it was very, very nasty. Borderline on a call for violence, and now you're trying to get the same tough talk so he can maybe break out of the pack and move up the list. Now, Princeton professor Eddie Glad was on MSNBC. And this is an interesting take. We know that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy on everything according to MSNBC and those in the media and certain politicians. Why? If he's such a threat to democracy, why don't people care? Well, Mr. Glad had this to say. So we try to describe that as a threat to democracy, but we think that's too abstract a way of kind of getting all to that reality. We know what is happening very clearly is that Donald Trump is trying to destroy any space agency institution that cultivates a critical capacity that allows for him to be held to account, that he can be free to do anything he wants because he's the president. I think that might be a paraphrase of a quote, right? And so I think part of what we're describing here, and we try to do it over the course of, and we've been trying to pull through the line, and we're trying to use democracy as the way to do it. Here we go. But perhaps because we're so broken as a society, we're so selfish as a society, that what we have to do is just speak to self-interest. Your life is in danger because of all of this, that you're not safe because of all of this. And maybe that will strike a chord, because the broader issue around democracy doesn't seem to be getting through enough traction. Maybe it's like your very way of living is in danger because all this stuff that's falling apart because Donald Trump thinks he's alone, that he alone should rule and govern the country. So according to Princeton professor Eddie Glad Jr., you are so selfish. You are so worried about your self-interest that you don't care that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Is that a winning message? And do you consider yourself that selfish? Oh, by the way, just before we take another break, because I am running late, we're getting ready to wrap up this program almost already. The prosecutors did fail to obtain an indictment against the man who threw a sandwich at a federal agent. It was a sharp rebuke to the prosecutors who were assigned to bring charges against those arrested after President Trump's deployment of the National Guard troops and federal agencies. I can't remember what they were trying to what kind of complaint they were trying to throw at him, but it was a person who bought like a Subway sub and just used it almost like a bat and hit the ICE agent in the chest, calling that ICE agent a fascist, and I don't want you in my city. But they failed to get an indictment. All right, now we'll take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
William Mattar has a reputation for being a good guy.
Because I am a good guy.
For being focused on motor vehicle accident cases.
Because I focus on motor vehicle accidents.
For fighting for his clients.
Because I fight for my clients.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
You may see a teen struggling to find his way. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we see a teen gaining the confidence and skills to land his first job. You may see a child wrestling with hidden battles. We see a child learning to manage life's twists and turns. And where you may see a distracted teen, we see teens making a difference in their community. Kids today need people to see their potential and help them achieve it. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we do whatever it takes to help kids succeed, from fostering confidence and community to preparing them for graduation and beyond. Because when we see young people, we see limitless possibilities. Do you? Join us, Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Our beautiful view, picturesque view of historic Marcus Street in the heart of the Gaffer District. Brought to you, that view, by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, as you know. Let's go to some viewer comments. Oh, Steve. Hey, Steve is definitely going to see the Leonard Skinner Band. We'll have a blast. If you think of it, send some pictures tomorrow. You don't have to do it, obviously, during the concert. But if you think of it, they'll just see some pictures. You'll have to let us know. You'll have to give your review of Leonard Skinner at the State Fair today. I'd love to hear from you, Steve. On it. Rick writes in, this was in reference to yesterday, that I think there's 2 words to describe. I can't remember the exact question, Rick, but I thank you for responding to it. So I'll just read the answer. Good morning, Frank. My 2-word description of Trump's policy is extreme chaos. Have a good one, y'all. Well, thanks, Rick. Thanks for writing in. Ken writes in, I agree with you on Republicans holding town hall meetings. Well, thanks, Ken. The Dems all know that since they don't have a message that resonates with the majority of the electorate, they have to try and stop the Republican message from getting out. Yes, and it's not as if they're offering sound policy decisions. They're chanting or they're cursing, or it's not as if they're saying, okay, you think the big beautiful bill is good because of this. I think it's because of I think it's bad because of this, or this is how you could fix it. None of that. It's literally just shouting, name calling, a lot of cussing. An update here before we go to another break. Kilmar Abrego Garcia requests asylum in an attempt to prevent his deportation to Uganda. That's what his lawyers told a federal judge yesterday. The asylum request, Abrego Garcia's second, after denial back in 2019, has been submitted in a Maryland immigration court, further complicating his complex immigration case. That'll be interesting. I'm sure they did a little judge shopping to find the right Maryland immigration court, probably. The Trump administration maintains that Abrego Garcia is part of the dangerous MS-13 gang and has said it intends to deport him to the African country of Uganda. Now, if his new asylum request is approved, it could provide a green card and a path to citizenship, but his petition must go through the U.S. immigration court system, which is not part of the judiciary, but an arm of the Department of Justice and under the Trump administration's authority. All right. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because you probably had already heard that. But there's this really interesting piece, and it's by Batai Unger Sargon. And Sargon is the author of Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. So it says, from Me Too to Free Kilmar, Democrats keep trashing their dearest values over Trump. This is an interesting point. Just 8 years ago, back in 2017, millions of women took to the streets in those hats, you recall, to protest the election of Donald Trump, who they saw as an affront to women. The Women's March planted leftist enraged flag in the sand, and 8 months later, they swamped social media and American airwaves to excoriate sexual harassment in the workplace. Protecting and believing women was the movement's clarion call. You remember the time, it with the hashtag the Me Too symbol. So believe all women. You remember, it wasn't that long ago. And now in 2025, they have once again taken to the streets to rally around a credibly accused wife beater, just because Trump is trying to deport him. You read that right. The left is out in full force, marching, singing, chanting, even traveling to Central America to defend Kilmar Abrego Garcia. known to the legacy media as the Maryland man wrongfully deported by the Trump administration. In fact, Abrego Garcia is from El Salvador. He's an illegal immigrant who will game the asylum system to remain here after a judge issued a deportation order due to his apparent ties to MS-13. Experts say the gang also systemically uses gender-based violence to exert territorial control. He's also an alleged serial wife beater, according to his own spouse, Jennifer Abrego Garcia, who has been recorded begging a judge to step in and protect her. And he was caught in the act of human trafficking, for which he's now facing charges. The only mistake Trump made was in his first deporting Abrego Garcia to El Salvador, an error he's trying to correct by sending him to Uganda instead. Yet as Trump tries to rid American streets of this lowlife, the media and the Democrats have rallied to Abrego Garcia's side, demanding his freedom. Kilmar is all of us, tweeted AOC, the face of the Democrat Party. Really? Why are we all Kilmar, the wife beater, and not Jennifer, the American citizen who said he repeatedly beat her up? What happened to believe all women? It's truly amazing. The left went from the marches and Me Too to adoringly boosting a wife beater gang member in just 8 short years for no other reason than the wife-beating gangbanger is someone Trump wants removed from the country. A Trump deportation order was all it took for the warriors of the Me Too movement to embrace a violent misogynist. That's not a value leftists hold dear that they won't immediately turn on. There is no value leftists hold dear that they won't immediately turn on if they suspect Trump agrees with it. Remember when the left fought for free speech? That's a great point. Or remember when the left supported my body, my choice until Biden pushed mandatory COVID vaccine? Or when the left stood for women's rights? The list goes on and on. I know. I heard the corning whistle too. It's a party. Well, let me take a step back. The truth is Trump is a singular threat to Democrats, not because he opposes them, but because he's pilfered their best material and with it their base. And rather than fight for either, they've abandoned both. That's a great way of putting it. And it's kind of like how he's painted them into a corner to now essentially go against public safety with the National Guard or to support illegal immigrants, or the list goes on and on, how many things he's painting them into a corner to take the position on the wrong side of history. But we got to take a break. This show is going fast, and I have so much more to get to. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Livingston, Big Fox News, Southern Tier.
And something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. It's time people wake up to what the so-called Democrats are doing. They project their own crimes onto Trump because they are very close to losing all their power as their crimes against the U.S. taxpayers are being exposed. The only defense they have is to lie and slander a good president for fixing the mess they created since Clinton got elected. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Do we know who is bankrolling Garcia? Lawyers aren't cheap. That's a good question. There's going to be numerous far-left organizations that I'm sure are helping. There's so much money being thrown around with some of these groups, like with George Soros, who we mentioned earlier. So I don't know, though. I don't have the answer for you on that. Comment from a different viewer. To paraphrase President Trump, New Scum and other socialists like him have absolutely no leg to stand on regarding the fake idea that they keep their promises. The transparent Trump administration has, in fact, kept all his promises. So transparent, he did a 3-hour and 17-minute cabinet meeting that was filmed before a live studio audience, filmed, for the news broadcast, and they were criticizing him about it being 3 hours and 17 or 16 minutes, depending on which outlet you went to, called it rambling and disjointed. It is unbelievable. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. After yesterday's terrible event in Minnesota, tragic. We talked about it at the 6 o'clock hour. The anti-gun crowd will be loud once again, even though the guns that were used were legal hunting guns. Even their governor, Tim Walz, tried to appeal to voters with his He-Man hunting stunt. It has to be exhausting to be a liberal. Yeah, the instant push we talked about in the 6 o'clock hour, the politicalization of a tragedy is heartbreaking. You're already heartbroken reading the news, and then sadly your first thought after you first hear it is to think, oh no, how's the media and how are these far left politicians going to handle it? And this time, Jen Psaki, with her attack on thoughts and prayers, the mayor, Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, for whatever reason his first name escapes me right now, but Mayor Frey, attacking thoughts and prayers, attacking guns. Amy Klobuchar came out, Chuck Schumer. I'm trying to think of the ones we mentioned this morning, calling for gun control. Well, and that's what the whole attack on thoughts and prayers is. Thoughts and prayers aren't enough. You need to push gun control is essentially what they say. So Frey, after that was his first thought. Jen Psaki saying your prayers don't work here, to protect your kids, your prayers don't work here. It was just disgusting vitriol. But that is the talking points of the left, and we should be able to have some time to grieve, to pray, and to think about what happened. But instead, it's used for, it's politicized. It's politicized instantly. Okay, hey, a couple New York State things, but I do have to take another short break. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are excited to hear this. I just heard about it. Pepper spray is close to being legalized in New York, and it's about time. This is something that's been pushed for a long time. You can't get pepper spray. You might be shocked to learn that. Someone I knew, she needed pepper spray, or had a scenario where, working late nights and things like that, and couldn't find it in New York. Pepper spray, aka mace, is an effective non-lethal form of self-defense, and yet it's just about impossible to get in New York thanks to state laws that bans shipping it to addresses here and only allows specifically licensed pharmacists and firearms dealers to sell it. So now, who is this? But that might finally change. A new bill proposed by State Senator Jessica Scarcella Spanton would remove restrictions on which businesses can sell pepper spray and let New York residents buy it online and ship it to their homes without hassle. There's a lot of, especially when you look at New York City, a lot of young women in these various cities. It would be a great way for to protect themselves. So it's a long time coming. But I have to take a short break. Get your last second comments in as we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. We're going to go breakneck speed in the next few minutes. So make sure you stay with us.
Hard water makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning
Page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Check out our newsreels and hear about local.
You might be frozen for a second. Hold on. Let me see. Did we lose you right there at the end? All right. I think we're back. We had a little bit of a computer freezing issue. There we go. Okay. So Ken writes in, as everyone has seen, there was another school shooting. As everyone knew what happened, the Democrats rushed to blame guns, not mental illness. They actually were blaming prayers, too. And they rushed to blame guns, not mental illness, and not radical activists that get propagandized by the left's demonization of anyone that doesn't agree with them. It's no wonder that a trans kid with mental health issues did something horrible. He probably saw the t-shirt that Minnesota Lieutenant Governor was wearing. It said protect trans kids and had a picture of a hunting knife on it. When will we as a society come to the realization that we need to harden our schools to keep our kids safe? Thank you, Ken. Sergeant Dave writes in, morning, Frank. Well, morning, Sergeant Dave. It occurred to me that all these never Trump morons are afraid of being locked up. And the fact is the Biden administration incarcerated more Trump people. I haven't seen any Democrats in jail yet, much to many people's chagrin, that there's all these investigations and nothing really comes from it. Okay. Oh, by the way, Chuck Schumer's starting up his book tour. Remember the book tour he had to cancel when all his own party turned on him because he supported the budget bill? He's starting back his book tour, so rest assured you'll still have the opportunity. Zohran Mamdani could easily win the New York City mayoral race, but he'd have a real fight in a one-on-one battle with Cuomo, they're claiming. I don't think that happens. I think that's a little maybe coming from the pro-Cuomo crowd. That's suggesting that Curtis Silwa and Adams drop out, and I guess there's an independent Jim Walden we didn't know about drop out and just have it a two-person race. But did you see Zohran Mamdani struggling to lift up those weights? He was trying to be a man of the people, went to lift some weights. And Betsy McKay says scrawny Mamdani has a fatal weakness that could lose him the election. And it could very well be the weightlifting issue. People are teasing him, ridiculing him. And how does he show that he's tough on anything is kind of the idea. But anyway, scrawny Mamdani. Mamdani has never run anything larger than a 5-person assembly office. Who would actually run the city, including the NYPD, in a Mamdani administration? Voters need to start asking that question now. Quickly, Benjamin Netanyahu says Hamas probably wouldn't have attacked on October 7th if Trump would have been president. Probably not. It's hard to say with these maniacs. You can't quite tell, he said. I think Iran would have been more careful, and Iran is the patron. Jared Kushner and Tony Blair are going to join Trump for Gaza policy meeting at the White House. We know Jared Kushner was very much instrumental behind the scenes with the Abraham Accords. Is that it? That's it. That does it. What a show today. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us tomorrow morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I look forward to it already.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.